God, the Father of the universe. He is the author, the creator, the gun of the world, the almighty, the incomprehensible. He is the causeless cause and rootless root from which all things are grown. I extend honor to his and our holy prophet, Noble Jew Ali. That love thought that was manifest in the flesh on January 8th, 1886, out of the state of North Carolina. One who Allah raised from among us to bring us out of the mucky mire of the darkness of ignorance into the marvelous light of truth, teaching us those things necessary that we could change our conditions by breaking the mental chains of slavery and start to think for ourselves and start building a nation within a nation. I extend honor to the forerunner of the prophet, the Honorable Marcus Garvey, one who taught us about entrepreneurship and do for self. He said, up, up, you mighty nation, accomplish what you will. I extend honor to our first Grand Sheik of the Moorish Science Temple of America and the first appointed Supreme Grand Sheik of the Supreme Grand Council, Brother Edward Mediel. I extend honors to our present Supreme Grand Sheik and National Grand Chairman and Grand Sheik of Grand Temple 13, Brother R. Edward L. I extend honors to our National Grand Sheik and Supreme Grand Business Manager, Brother G. Turner L. I extend honor to our Assistant National Grand Sheik and Supreme Grand Press Secretary, Brother N. Chambers L. I extend honors to our charter to give us the divine right to teach our people their nationality and their divine creed, lawfully and unmolested, here in Baltimore, Maryland, and abroad. I extend honors to two flags combined, the American flag and Moorish flag. The American flag, the flag of my birth, the Moorish flag, the flag of my ancient descent. I extend honor to the divine constitution bylaws, to the additional laws, to the general laws, and to the divine proclamation, and all the literature that the prophet brought and everything he taught for the uplifting of fallen humanity. I extend honors to all grand governors and their assistants, all grand sheiks and their assistants, all adabs, all sheiks and sheikesses, all ordained ministers, all members and officials of Uniting of the Moorish Science Temple of America, especially those who are striving to obtain that title of being what? Faithful. I extend honors to man, because when man honors man, he honors his Father God Allah. I extend honors to each and every one of you by following the prophet's laws, making your meeting on time. And he will be pleased, and you should be pleased also by getting the spiritual nourishment that you need. And I extend honors to everything that honors is truly due. Islam, salvation, Allah, unity, the Moorish Science Temple of America, the divine constitution and bylaws. Act 1. The Grand Sheik and the chairman of the Moorish Science Temple of America is empowered to make law and enforce laws with the assistance of the prophet and the grand body of the Moorish Science Temple of America. The assistant Grand Sheik is to assist the Grand Sheik in all affairs if he lives according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and it is known before the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Act 2. All meetings will be open and closed promptly according to the Circle 7 in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Friday is our holy day of rest, because on a Friday, the first man was formed in flesh, and on a Friday, the first man departed out of flesh and ascended unto his Father God Allah. For that cause, Friday is the holy day for all Muslims all over the world. Act 3. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice must be proclaimed and practiced by all members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. No member is to put in danger or accuse falsely his brother or sister on any occasion at all that may harm his brother or sister, because Allah is love. Act 4. All members must observe these holy and divine laws, and all members must obey the laws of the government, because by being a Moorish American, you are a part and partial of the government and must live life accordingly. Act 5. This organization of the Moorish Science Temple of America is not to cause any confusion or to overthrow the laws and constitution of the said government, but to obey hereby. Act 6. With us, all members must reclaim their nationality. And we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are a part and a partial of this said government and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted till 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Jew Ali the prophet to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All members must promptly attend their meetings and become a part and a partial of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look at the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Jew Ali, through the guidance of his father God Allah. Noble Jew Ali, founder, the Moorish American prayer, Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night and by day, through his holy prophet, Jew Ali. Amen. Uniting of the Moorish Science Temple of America, Moorish Holy Quran, chapter 47, verse 12. Home office, Grand Temple 13, Baltimore, Maryland, 21218. I proceed with a reading from the Great Meetings on Quran Questions for Moorish American, particularly page 7 and 8. Questioning additional laws for the Moorish Americans by the Prophet Noble Jew Ali. Act 1. Grand sheikhs and governors and heads of all temples, all businesses, each said temple must be approved by the Prophet Noble Jew Ali. Before acting upon by any members, let it be finance, property, or any line of life that would cause the members to sacrifice finance, etc., that would cause support of any group of members. Any former officer that violate these laws is subject to remove from his office under heavy restriction, etc., by the Prophet or the Grand Sheikh. Act 2. All members are to attend their ADAP meetings and their public meetings promptly. If a member is found standing around on their meeting period, shall be fined 50 cents on the first case, and on the second, he will be fined $1, which will go in your emergency fund. If a member is working and his monthly dues must be paid, and if he has money in the bank, he must ascribe for as much as he is able to the Moorish Uplifting Fund, because it takes finance to uplift the nation. Act 3. It's the lawful and divine duty of every good member, if he is able in finance, to aid me in saving the nation. If he does not, he's an enemy to the cause of uplifting his own people, and justice must catch you. Let it be he or she, according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, as I have the power invested in my hands, I will have to enforce the law in order to save the nation. Act 4. All members, while making a public speech, must not use any assertion against the American flag or speak radical against the church or any member of any organized group, because we are to teach love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Act 5. All members must promptly attend their meetings and send their children to Sunday school, and the teacher must confirm himself to the questionnaire. And let every member exercise his 5 senses who is able to do so, because out from your Sunday school comes the guiders of the nation. Act 6. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are a part and parcel of this said government, and know that that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted till 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Ali the prophet to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabit the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All members must promptly attend their meetings and become a part and a partial of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look at the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Ali, through the guidance of his Father God Allah. According to our tradition and customs, I declare my intentions according to page 3 of the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, so that it may be understood if any mistakes are made during my delivery or reading, it should be placed upon I, the speaker or reader, and not upon our beloved prophet, Noble Ali, and surely not to Allah, for Allah is perfect in all of his ways. The Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, divinely prepared by the noble prophet Ali, by the guidance of his Father God Allah, the great God of the universe, to redeem man from the sinful and fallen stage of humanity back to the highest plane of life with his Father God Allah. The divine instruction from the Holy Prophet, page 3. Know thyself and thy Father God Allah. Paragraphs 2, 3, and 4. And it states, dear readers, do not falsely use these lessons. They are for good, peace, and happiness for all those that love Jesus. Dear mothers, teach these lessons to your little ones that they may learn to love instead of to hate. Dear fathers, by these lessons, you can set your house in order, and your children will learn to love instead of hate. I'll proceed with reading from the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, chapter 43, Holy Instructions from the Prophet, the Insufficiency of Knowledge. I'll be reading verse 1, and I will read other verses, in chronological order. If there is anything lovely, if there is anything desirable, if there is anything within the reach of man that is worthy of praise, is it not knowledge? And yet, who is it that attaineth it? I'm going over to 23 on down. When thou givest an oath, when thou swearest with, thou wilt not deceive. Behold, it spread of shame upon thy face, and upon thy face, and upon thy face of him who receives it. Learn to be just, and repentance may be forgotten. Learn to be honest, and oaths are not necessary. Islam. I'd like to declare our Wednesday Quran study class open this evening. As I was reviewing this chapter, and we talk about the insufficiency of knowledge, what does that mean? Some may think that the insufficiency of knowledge is by someone that don't have knowledge or really don't understand the knowledge. But that's not the case when dealing with this chapter here. The insufficiency of knowledge means that you can attain knowledge. You can be knowledgeable and attain knowledge on any subject matter you want. But it's not in just the attainment of it, it's how you use it, the purpose for it. Are you using it for good? Are you using it for yourself? You know what I mean? As far as to show off, say, I know this, I know that. but are you using it to uplift yourself and change yourself? And are you using it to help others and prevail justice? Because when I see this chapter and I look at it, I see the five divine principles within this chapter. If we follow the instructions the way it's written, I see love, I see peace, truth, freedom, and justice, especially truth and justice. But the freedom's in there too, because why? We have freedom to think and make decisions. But are those decisions going to be one that are accurate and balanced right on a scale? Or are we going to do injustice things with that knowledge that we have? We, as especially those who are adepts, sheiks and sheikhisses, and especially ordained ministers and officials within the Moorish Science Temple of America, we have to be careful about the decisions that we made. This is why the prophet tells us, if I can get you to think, you could change your condition. So we have to change our condition by having the proper thinking. This is why we make our meetings, and it's part of the practice. So you can make the thinkings in the right manner. Because you have to understand, man was given a will. And that will, he had the power to choose. So I'm going to use this. Are you going to take the blue pill or the red pill? You know what I mean? No, you want to be able to be decisive. Just like Prophet Solomon was. He had to make a decision. He had to think and make decisions and make the righteous decisions because he ruled a nation of people. Same with Prophet Jesus and all the prophets. They ruled a nation of people, guiding people. And you got to make the right, accurate decision. And we as Moors, we have to. Look at society today. Our political leaders, our statesmen. You know what I mean? Look at decisions that be made on the job. Are they following the policy and procedures that are written, not only for the employees, but for themselves too? You can't be a tyrant with knowledge and not using it in the right way. Because if you have that knowledge and you're not using it in the right way, it's like having a pistol in your hand with bullets in there, and you just pointing to shoot unnecessary, and you might hit innocent bystanders who had nothing to do with the situation. And sometimes, even in a courthouse, a person is innocent until proven guilty. And sometimes in this chapter, it talks about how people can use this knowledge to put fear in somebody, so somebody can say that, hey, I'm just I don't need this pain no more. I'm just gonna plead guilty so I can get this over with. And they really are innocent because they play with technology to use certain words and everything, and use their authority to have people fall into their traps. And it can be detrimental to people. You could break up homes. You could ruin somebody's life and reputation. And we as leaders in the United of the Moorish Science Temple America, we have to take upon ourselves to make sure that we are making the right decisions. And we're using the knowledge and not abusing the knowledge. That's the insufficiency of knowledge, that we are using knowledge in the right format. Because what is our duty? To uplift fallen humanity. In order to uplift fallen humanity, you have to have self-mastery of yourself. You have to be able to have a balance to be able to do things. And this is where that lower self and higher self comes in. And this is where the thinking come in. If you rise your ethos high enough and think about the process. And some of the process we have to use in solving our problems that may come upon us is who, what, when, where, and how. And then we got to think about what will be the resolution of how to solve a certain issue dealing with our people. It could be the conditions they was in. Just like earlier today, we was talking about womanhood, sisterhood. Our sisters went through a certain thing. And it's conditions they went through that we have to uplift them and keep them up high, because through our sisters come humanity. And we have to help raise the child and protect our children. And this is the problem with society today. You know, the problem with society today is not just social and economical, but in profound sense is moral and spiritual. And we got to have morals, and we must guide them in a spiritual sense. You know, because you have legal authority and then you have moral authority. Legal is the legislation that stands that this is what you must do. But moral authority is how we think, and we guide them in that direction of doing the righteous thing. And as my sister always said, it's spiritual. You know what I mean? The spirit within ourselves, you know, the Allah in us. Because he even, our prophet says in verse 21, what if thou see thy insufficiencies more plainly? View at thy devotions. To what end was religion instituted, but to teach thee thy infirmities, and to remind thee of thy weakness, to show thee from heaven alone art thou to hope for good. So we need some guidance. And our prophet, Allah sent us a prophet to give us some guidance. We had to learn how to love instead of hate. And we're still learning. We had to learn how to be adults, to be fathers and husbands and brothers and sisters. And then we go back to that stand that we are building on human needs, the bands of society. And when I was going over this and going over my instructions, my study guide helped me with some stuff. And I started thinking, I said, wait a minute, we always talk about love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Just right in it within this chapter. You get us to think. Come on, Brother Smith Bay, you got to think. Because is there anything lovely? Is there anything desirable? Is there anything within the reach of man that is worthy of praise? Is it not knowledge? And man, we are seeking, we want the knowledge. That's one of the highest things we want to get. We want knowledge more than anything. But again, I know I'm saying repetitive, it's the use of that knowledge. Obtaining it is one thing, thinking and using is another thing. You know, I got to catch myself sometime. We all do, but I got to speak of me, myself, and I. Because I used to be able to, I like reading. When people get to know me, they know that, yeah, Leroy liked to read. Brother Smith Bay liked to read. He wanted to attain this and that. And then I used to like to show off because I will memorize certain things by heart. I leave a word or two out here and there, but I would memorize certain things. But it wasn't just with memorizing it. You know, being a parrot, because you can quote certain things and you know it, and people are like, "Dad, that brother's sharp." But it was like to be able to explain it. And then even to be able to explain it, you know, in layman terms, and you sharp and thinking and be able to explain in layman terms to get them like, oh yeah, oh man, that's deep. Well, man, you hitting that. But then am I applying it to myself? And am I thinking in the right manner to help people, not to put people down, not to make people feel as though they stupid or, they unlearned? Because I was unlearned at one time. And I'm still unlearned. I'm still learning. So, this is a change in your character, working on your character, being able to show humility within yourself. Show humility. And then once you show humility and start getting your process right, then you start showing meekness towards others. And then that meekness coming to what? Being what? Love itself. One of the 5 divine principles. Love. And then you teach truth. One of the second of the 5 divine principles. And then you can have peace within. Peace. We are seeking peace. They're seeking peace right now all over the world. And why is that war going over there with Iran and everything? Somebody want to have the power, and they making decisions to take over those people's land and their oil and trying to tell them what to do, and can't even handle business here in the United States. of all the problems we have here. That's like going to somebody else's house trying to tell them what to do, and you ain't got your own backyard straightened out yet. You know, so we as leaders and officials within the Moorish Science Temple of America, we have to be concise in what we do. We have to be on point. We have to dot every I, cross every T, not only in our words, but in our deeds and our behavior and our gestures. We have to talk things through. And not no one person got everything right, but this is why we help one another out. This is why it's important that I participate and come to my meetings. This is why it's important that I try to study and fix a habit of reading my Quran in the morning and my divine constitution and bylaws and my additional laws, and not just reading, research and dig down into them and what it means. You know what I mean? What those acts mean and additional acts mean, what those general laws mean, what do our divine proclamation tells us, what do our Moorish American prayer tells us as a daily affirmation several times in a day. Uplift yourself and think, and be happy that Allah has inculcated in you a spirit of himself in you, that you got to uprise and unfold and grow. And you can go through things, but when those foes come your way, we got to make decisive decisions. Do I go left? Do I go right? Do I go up or do I go down? Because one mistake may make our conditions be very painful. And we don't want to do that. We want to be to the right, not to the left. You know, it's so much. It's like, oh man, what's the other okay, it's like 13. Insufficient as thou art with the maintenance of justice, how shall thou arrive at the knowledge of truth? How shall thou ascend the footsteps on her throne? By thinking, by analyzing. You know, we are told, and I'm going to my Grand Sheik's definition. We are told about Moorish science to a certain degree that it is educational discipline of intellectual enterprise, a domain of phenomena, a body of knowledge, concepts, and theories with a set of techniques for what? Gaining, validating, and applying the knowledge that we use to understand intellectual, moral, and emotional development. We got to get our emotions in check. And notice I say moral and emotional development. Once we set ourselves right, as we said in the previous chapter, in constancy, you know what I mean? Establish thyself principles of action and see that those thou adhere to them. We got to be just. And a lot of us in these positions of authority, we think that we can throw the law out there on our members, or if we managers or supervisors on the job, we got the authority that we could be dictators, and the rules don't apply to us. We just throw out the laws and say, do this, do that. We're going to micromanage. You know what I mean? Micromanaging has been out the window years ago. Even in religion to a certain extent. It's how you use your tactics, and maybe I'm using the wrong word. It's how we use our techniques of dealing with our people. And one of the ways you can deal with our people, and I'm learning this myself, is get to know your people. You know what I mean? Where they coming from, where their thought process are. And then you learning about them and they learning about you, and you grow together and work with one another. You know what I mean? We want to be on an equilibrium level with one another. So that's where the understanding coming from. So tonight, I'm going to go around the table with the four of us here. I was just telling you what I see in this chapter from studying it for the past couple of days, you know what I mean, and reviewing it and listening to the audio on it, you know what I mean? And I'm grateful to our Grand Sheik for giving me a study guide to help me out. But I feel that our five divine principles are within this chapter, and It's the utilization of them. You know what I mean? To know them. Um, and a couple verses got to when a couple verses clicked in my mind when I was reading this, and I already stated some of them to y'all. You know what I mean? Like 4 says, "Be wise, O reader, ruler, and learn. O thou art to command the nations. One crime authorized by thee is worse than to escape 10 from punishment." You know, a lot of times, the prophet, I was going to read one of the prophet's statements in the Moorish guide, in the Moorish literature, where he talks about, uh, you know, there should be no favorites in the temple. We shouldn't like appoint people or put people in stations because they are buddies, but we should look at things of what he or she can do to help grow our temple and help us build a nation. You know what I mean? Put our thinking caps on. And it shouldn't be favoritism. And one of the things we have as being human beings, I mean, we have a nature to favor one over another because of our biochemistry, of certain individuals. That does happen, but we got to treat everybody the same and give everybody the same respect. You know what I mean? And we got to feel help uplift everyone. And this is dealing with the bands of society. If not, how can we build a nation within a nation? How can we change our conditions? Because all of us still under of their mental slavery, dealing with that Willie Lynch thing and everything. You know what I mean? So we gotta wipe that out of our minds, and that takes time. It takes years of development, and it takes a desire. That's where it's at. The desire that you want to change. You know what I mean? Not your desire to change someone else, but your desire to change yourself. And when people see the change in you, they want to know what is the ingredients or the secret you have that you went from this level to this level in years, and you didn't change from a total different person, and you humbled yourself. And that's where humility comes in again. We got examples in our scriptures. We got examples, prophet Jesus. We got examples, Prophet Noble Ali, our prophet. And his spirit of truth still speaks to us today through his literature. If only we can listen with our spiritual ears and see with our spiritual eyes to put illusion from our minds and get into the essence of what life is. So at this time, I'm going to ask for our Sheikahs, Barnes Bay, to dive into this chapter and give me some feedback, sister, on what you think. And you always come with the spiritual aspect sometimes. And sometimes you hit on some bullet points that make a brother think. It makes me think sometimes. You know what I mean? So at this time, sis, the floor is yours. Come on with it, Sister Barnes Bay.
Islam.
Islam.
Well, first I want to give praise to Allah and give honor to all the honors that the chairman has already given honor to. And give honor to all of you. Um, I agree with a lot that you have already said, sir. And but I have to say that I'm not gonna say what I usually say, because sometimes I go a little further than I should. So I'll put it this way: we, um, we have power over you have power over your life, and you have to study to have knowledge and to make yourself approved. But if you find if your mind and heart is not in what the prophet is teaching us, and the stuff that and the information that Allah has given him, the knowledge that we will learn it, because we know that what he teaches us is the truth and not something he was taught. And then he got this information from Allah. So when he gets his information from Allah and give it to us, then there's a saying that the truth will set you free. So if you and if you have faith, that means that you trust that when we're telling us something from Allah, because it was, it was given to him to teach us. And so if we accept that knowledge that the prophet has given us, and it's and allowing us to express it, because and not just throw it out there and just tell people this is what the prophet said, or this is what you're supposed to do. You got to check yourself. Make sure, check yourself, check your heart, check your position. you know Allah gave us the prophet, gave information to the prophet. It's the stuff that we needed. So once he gave it to us and he teaches it, then we should accept it as he gave it to us. We shouldn't try to turn it around and make it for ourselves. Um uh and I had a question. I wanted to know, how do we arrive at the knowledge of the truth if we don't get it from Allah and the prophet? Can somebody answer that for me?
Ms. You say, how can we arrive to knowledge of truth if we don't
Yeah,
get it from if we don't get it from?
the prophet and Allah.
I think the only way you can get it is from Allah. And Allah uses us to convey knowledge to others. And that truth came through our prophet, Noble Drew Ali. He came to bring us out the mucky mud of darkness, to lift us up. We was enslaved not only in the physical sense, but we were enslaved mentally. We were brainwashed. And Allah used the prophet to bring us out of that, so we can think for ourselves and be our own people. He had to teach us to be ourselves and uplift us. So in order to get the truth about ourselves, every nation had a prophet sent to them to change their condition and bring them up for whatever purpose there was around that time of period for that group of people. So our prophet came to us. Allah sent one from among us to teach us things. We had to learn all over again. And even in the introduction of our Quran and in the back of our Quran on the cover, we have to be taught how to love one another instead of hate one another. That's why I mentioned earlier about the things, the colonialism and the Willie Lynch thing and certain things. We have to learn how to be a family within ourselves. We have to learn how to have principles regarding ourselves. And those principles is the 5 divine principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. The truth is there. The truth we had to find out. Who told us about the creation and fall of man? We only got a portion of that from what the European gave us in the Bible. They watered down certain things that we didn't get the full understanding or the full truth. We got lukewarm truth. But by the grace of Allah, he sent one to us to bring us up so we can think and know where we really came from and be proud of our history. And once you know where you came from, then you can deal with the now. And once you know the now, you could build towards the future. And we got a lot of work to do. But that's a good question, though, Sister Barnes Bay. I'm glad you put that out there like that. That's my answer I would give. For us to, in order to, if you said if we didn't have the prophet or Allah to give us truth, how we know the truth? We need the Allah and the prophet. Plus, the truth is in us to a certain degree. We had to come out that what you call that our coma. I'm gonna say that coma under the hypnotic spell. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And raise
Yeah.
ourselves up.
Islam. So then it's right to say that we have to trust what the information we get from the prophet, because what the information he has, he got it from Allah.
The prophet is taught in our questionnaire. It said the prophet is what? A thought of Allah, right?
Right. So that's what I'm saying. So the information that he's given us, he got it from Allah. So
Yeah, yeah.
so
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 if go
we
ahead.
have to trust it. We have to believe it and use it, that knowledge, to keep everything going in the right direction.
Right, but our people sometimes, I mean, I'm gonna say it like this. We got four of us on this conference call. For whatever reason, I don't know where everybody's at. I'm not gonna accuse nobody of anything. You know what I mean? Allah knows the heart. And one of the things you said is you gotta have a desire. You know what I mean? You gotta have that desire. You have to have that inner strength. And I think it was chapter not just in Constantine. Was it in Constantine or in the state I can't even say it right. Instability. I'm saying it wrong, but in that chapter,
Instability.
yes, in that chapter, it talks about our inner strength. We have to have the desire, but we have to have our inner strength to want to change, to want to do things. So we put our strength and our thoughts into things that we think are necessary, but they are our wants, not what we need. And if life is so important to us and we want to change our condition, really have that desire, and we're gonna go through a little bit of trouble. But notice how if you try to do good, yeah, things gonna get in your way. But just think when you're not trying to do good. You know what I mean? It's like Allah let the sun shines on those who are trying to do right and those who are not trying to do right. Allah allows people to get up in the morning, those who want to know and those who don't want to know. And things happen, circumstances happen that certain things might happen to them. You know what I mean? And it might be a time for us to go, certain things happen to us, to those who are trying, But as you said, an individual must have the desire to want and yearn to learn, and everybody don't want to do. They think of excuses. They just want things to come to them naturally, like snap of a finger. And it's not like that, and everybody ain't got that awakening. They think they have and they don't. They searching. You know what I mean? Someone leave this body of knowledge, and then they go back out there doing things their way, and they suffer a little bit or suffer a lot, and then they come back and like, man, let me try this again. And it's to me, it's like you have to want to be able to do it. This is why the prophet have us standing up on a square, forming a 7, 5 on the left, 2 on the right, and we stand erect and we looking up. We ain't bowing down. We did enough bowing down. He wants us to stand erect and be proud of who we are. You know what I mean? Not arrogant in being proud, but be proud of who you are and uplift yourself. And again, start to think, and like I said, that question was good. If we didn't have Allah and the prophet, where would we be? So even in that question there, it says, a prophet is a thought of Allah manifest in the flesh. That is question 6. But then if we go on, and you brought up again, it says, what is our prophet to us? In question 40, it says, he's an angel of Allah who was sent to bring us the everlasting gospel. And then it says 41, what is the everlasting gospel? It's the saving power that comes from Allah through our ancient fathers by his prophet. So these teachings, ancient teachings, our prophet came to give us something to wake us up. And he couldn't, he came at a time that was an appointed time, an time for it. Just like prophet Jesus came at an appointed time for the people back then. But our prophet came to us, and it says, even in the introduction to the Quran, these lessons have been not known. I'm sorry, wrong. The reason these lessons had not been known is because the Muslims in India, Egypt, and Palestine had these secrets and kept them back from the outside world. And when the time appointed by Allah, they loosened the keys. What does the key does? Unlock. The key unlocks or locks something. They loosen the keys. So he's unlocked our minds, our spiritual essence of us, and free these secrets. For the first time in ages had these secrets been delivered in the hands of a Muslim in America. So he came at a point of time for us.
Yeah.
He came at
Islam.
a point. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Since you were saying
no,
something?
I was saying Islam. I had gratitude to your explanation, and I yield the floor.
Thank you, my sister. Thank you. But Sister Bonds May, I want to give flowers to you. You had, since I've been on these conference calls, and I know you're not here in the city with us, but you're not afraid to speak at a meeting. You have grown and put things out there. And a lot of times I think that we as brothers and sisters need to really listen to what you're saying, because some things you hit on a point and we might think it's some things are out of context, just a little bit, but you're expressing yourself of trying to tell us something and make us think. And hey, where did we start at? We are spirit beings taking an earthly journey of having an earthly experience. We are spirit beings having an earthly experience in this human flesh. And we go through some things. We go on some things. So I throw flowers to you, my sister.
Yes,
keep throwing questions out there like that. That was a good question. I was like, oh, where did this come from? You know what I mean? And it made me think. And I'm not saying that I'm wrong in what I'm saying. I'm not saying I'm 100% right. I'm just going for I'm 100% right coming from the prophet's literature, you know what I mean, from what I have learned, and everything. But this is how we dialogue. This is how we dialogue and get to, this is how class should be. Our Grand Sheik and our assistant Grand Sheik is trying to get us to have a discussion, really a conversation, a reasonable conversation. And when you have a reasonable conversation, you read something and you dive down into it and you like, okay, I read something and dive down to the same chapter. I might hit the surface. You might go a little deeper. I'm not saying you're wrong. I might not understand or comprehend it at that time. But as I study and go further and further, it hits me like, oh, that sister made a point. This is why when we have our meetings, we are told to have a composition notebook and something to write with and to take notes. And then you take the notes, and then when you come back, you ask the question. And then we go over these chapters. We take a chapter a week at a time. So then if a question's answered and you recall something, if you're studying, then you bring it up. Just like you did this evening, just like you did this evening. And where did I go? To our Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple America and to our questionnaire. You know what I mean? And some stuff I was quoting from memory, not word for word, but from the prophets of a literature, And this is how we dialogue with one another. And you're like, where you get that from? And then I just now stated where I got it from. You know what I mean? I went to the question and I said the question this and question 6, question 40, question 41, and try to give a accurate answer from the prophet's teachings, what he, gave to us, and I try to explain it in the best way I can. And This is what we have to do. Each one teach one. I learn from you, you learn from me. You know what I mean? And we start a conversation. We start in a conversation and we start building on things and we start learning from one another. And then people start expressing themselves. And then the ethers rises to open up our what? Our third eye. The consciousness within us, that soul being, to wake us up. It actuate what? The spirit actuate the soul actuate what? Our flesh. And then we start being spiritual beings, taking an earthly journey, and we start displaying that Moorish character. And that is having knowledge, using it, not having knowledge being insufficient in knowledge and abusing it, as this chapter talks about. You know, people abuse the knowledge instead of using the knowledge to help uplift one another, that we can start building. And then we start with ourselves, this small group. And then people start coming to the temple if we all working together as a family, cohesively moving with this divine national movement. And then we start having ideas laid on the table, how we can make our community better. You know what I mean? Maybe like Marcus Garvey was saying, like where our stores, where our businesses, where our schools, we can start to have a Moorish grocery store or something, you know what I mean? And do things, like our Grand Sheik was saying, you know what I mean? Like we have to make our environment within the temple more comfortable, you know what I mean? Have coffee or teas, so somebody can drink some coffee or tea at the meeting, not being destructive, but, feel relaxed. And then we can have discussions, speakers can speak on Friday and we throw it out there, and explain the chapter. Then we break it down and everybody sit down and talk about the chapter. You know what I mean? Sunday school, you know what I mean? Our Sunday school teacher, Brother Edison L., he puts questions out there, like and that would have been a great question at Sunday school that you threw up. I'm still thinking about that question, even though I gave my answer. I'm just saying that was like, wow, like we need to get in that questionnaire. We should pick a question from the questionnaire every Sunday, and a homework assignment should be given out to us. I'm not saying my brother, he does his job, but I'm just throwing my suggestion out there. And then we have to look at that question and break it down, and then we go into our chapter, and the chapter could be like, okay, Brother Smith Bell wants you to study review verses 1 through 3. Sister Bonds, I want you to take 4, 5, and 6 and be able to explain it. And we talk about it. And then we get everybody's participation. It's just like this evening. The butterfly's gone now. It's just like this evening. I was kind of worried, and I'm still a little bit, but I don't have no butterflies, and I use butterflies. I get little anxieties about things because I don't want to say nothing or do anything wrong. And then you get comfortable in talking, but it's like I'm trying to prepare myself to be a better person, and I want to be a person where I can attract others to come along. And really, I need to attract me, but that's another story. We talk about that later. I don't want to say it on the air. It's nothing wrong. Well, yeah, I'm looking for companionship, but I'm looking for someone to have both her feet in my Father's house. Not one. I want both. You know what I mean? To help keep me keep myself in check. And try to keep both my feet in my Father's house and in these lessons. This is why I feel I struggle to make my meetings. I do. I'm not gonna lie to nobody. I have times where I don't want to make a meeting. And then there's times where I'm stuck at work when I really want to make the meeting. And I'm like, why are they doing me like this? This is a test right here for me. You know what I mean? And I really want to make the meeting. Like last Sunday, I was stuck at work. And I broke my neck getting home. And I always, when I get home, I always got to refresh myself. And I want to put my you know, that's how I train myself, to represent the prophet, and myself. Uh, and then I want to get involved in a meeting. And I got online. I'm like, where everybody at? Because I wanted to get into the meeting, And I'm gonna say this for the record. I know they on there, both of them. I appreciate my brothers and trying to. Ain't no trying to. They are. They got the mallet and the chisel working on me. But at the same time, I got to work on myself. I got to work on myself. Old brother Elaine Jr. L. I deal with that later. Um, I got to work on myself. And I'm here because I have a desire to want to change the conditions in my life. I have a desire because I'm seeking the knowledge that I can use not only to help myself first, but if people see the change in me. And I am grateful that Allah blessed me with two of my prodigies, my son and my daughter. And certain things are sent to them with me delivering a message or speaking from the podium. And my daughter dialogues with me. She'd say, Daddy, wow, that was dynamic. You know what I mean? And, she said, you really into it. You always submerge yourself in something that I put myself in there because I want to change. And I can't help change nobody else until I change myself. Any more comments, Sister Barnes Bay?
No, I yield.
My dear brother and teacher and assistant Grand Sheik and the Supreme Grand Historian and Sunday school instructor, Brother Editor now. I'd like to open the mic to you, sir, so you can elaborate on this chapter here, the insufficiency of knowledge, my brother. Are you there, at Brother Editor now?
Might be sleep.
I think I read a sign. I may be wrong, but yeah. But just you and I dialogue because I was looking for something, and it was a thing where it's about he created us.
Islam.
Oh, Islam.
My phone was locked some kind of way.
Yes, sir. Well, the mic is yours, sir. I want to give you some time to speak on the chapter. You know what I mean? Islam.
All right. I already written my thoughts in prayer. I continue by praising Allah, the Father of the universe, Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Extend the highest of honor to our prophet and founder of the United of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Extend honor to the forerunner of the prophet, Brother Marcus Garvey. Extend honor to Brother Emilio Hill. Extend honor to Brother R. Edwards Hill. Extend honor to Brother G. Turner Hill. Extend honor to Brother N. James Hill. Extend honor to our Grand Governors, their assistants, Grand Sheiks, their assistants, ordained ministers, sheiks, adaks, members, everything that the chairman extended honor to. I extend honor to. That was a good question that the sister put forth. It made me reflect on the chapter as well, because when I look at uh, verse 12, I think it was, and it states, "O blindness to all truth, O insufficiency of the wisdom of the wise. Know when thou judge shall bid thee account for this, thou shalt wish 10,000 to have gone free, rather than one innocent to stand forth against thee. Insufficient as thou art to the maintenance of justice, how shalt thou arrive at the knowledge of truth? How shalt thou ascend to the footsteps of her throne? As the owl is blinded by the radiance of the sun, so shall the brightness of her countenance dazzle thee in thy approaches. If thou wouldest mount unto her throne, first bow thyself at her footstool. If thou wouldest arrive at the knowledge of her, first inform thyself of thy own ignorance. More worth is she than pearls. Therefore seek her carefully. The emperor and the sapphire and the ruby are as dirt beneath her feet. Therefore pursue her manfully. The way to her is labor. Attention is the pilot that must conduct thee into her port. But worry not on the way, for when art arrived at her, the toy shall be to thee for pleasure. Say not unto thyself, behold, truth breedeth hatred, and I will avoid it. Dissimulation raise friends, and I will follow it. Are not the enemies made by truth better than the friends obtained by flattery? Naturally doth man desire the truth, yet when it is before him, he will not apprehend it. And if it force itself upon him, he is not offended at it. The fault is not in truth, for that is amiable. But the weakness of man bear not a splendor. But let me stop there because that's a big mouthful. That reminds me, when we first come into the moral science of America, and we define it as a body of knowledge. So when we first come into this body of knowledge, we begin to investigate. We don't just accept it right off the top. We have to study. We have to investigate. We have to be able to apply and see if it worked. Well, I know I do. I had to see if it worked, And the more that I apply to myself, or the more deeper I dive beneath the surface, the more convinced I am that it came from Allah through his holy prophet, and that it was for my earthly and divine salvation. But until I began to study, began to peel back the layers of truth, I had no clue what divine knowledge was. It's just like when we look at the term insufficiency of knowledge. We lack in knowledge, but it's not saying that we lacking in schooling. It's not saying that we lacking in studying history or science or medicine or physics or anything like that. We can have a PhD, MBA, all different type of letters behind our names. But how do we know about that higher self and that lower self? Because once we have that key hooked up in our little brain, radiating from our soul, being able to activate and direct the flush, because we know what it is. We know what grab hold of our cardinal desires and take it into the left field. We know what grab hold of our righteous desires and principles and take it into the right hand field. So again, this chapter to me is dealing with a knowledge that is not academic, not that you learn in school how to read and write and stuff like that, but it's the type of knowledge that is dealing with the spiritualities of life, dealing with the oneness of God, dealing with how to overcome that evil that is within us, that divine knowledge, And so this is something that has to be approached a different way. And that is also emphasized in verse 14, where it says, as the owl is blinded by the radiance of the sun, so shall the brightness of her countenance dazzle thee in their approaches. Knowledge, man, sometimes knowledge will hit you just like that. all of a sudden you don't know what it is, but then like like a twist, like turn the light switch on, there it is. Bam. You see it, you feel it, you know it's a part of you. You know, it's just like another example is like you can be standing up there, argue with me until you're red in the face. Or I can be standing up there arguing with you until you're red in the face. But then it says, what do it say? It says, uh, oh, here it is. In verse 19, naturally does man desire the truth, yet when it is before him, he will not apprehend it. And if it forces itself upon him, he is not offended at it. To me, that means that you could be standing up there, I could be dead wrong, having both my shoes on the wrong feet. Just standing up there hard-headed and stubborn. Don't want to give 1 inch. But then then I leave, and it makes me feel like we've been in a fight. I ain't throw nail punch or nothing like that. But we have debated and argued for so long, I'm exhausted. And then I go over into that corner, and then that high self say to me, you know you was dead wrong. You know you was dead wrong. And that is what it meant when it says, when it forces itself upon you, I'm not offended. Now home will get mad with. I'm over in that corner talking to you. The high stuff, look, the high stuff and the low stuff talking to each other. And the low stuff saying, yeah, they ain't had no business saying that. And the high stuff say, why not? Why they had up them saying that? They was telling you the truth. What you was offended at the truth, and you had this long, drawn out conversation, but you're not exhausted because it has forced itself upon you. You over there where you can't get away from yourself. You can't get away from acknowledging within yourself that this is the truth, But now, it'll take a strong person to come back and apologize and tell the other person, the individual or the external part, that they was wrong. But this is the part of growing up. So how do you arrive at the knowledge of truth? By being able to study and be truthful with yourself and accept that this came from the great God of the universe. But only when you have reached that point. Don't nobody come into the moral science of America and all of a sudden they got a magic wand and they know this is divine. They know that this is everlasting. We have to learn this. And we learn this by doing what the prophet called us out to do. And that is applying these lessons to oneself. The knowledge that the prophet is talking about is the knowledge of truth. Because we know that the rulers and the rich do have a certain type of knowledge. They have certain accomplishments, and things. But the knowledge of the nature of the lower self and higher self, that is altogether a different knowledge. Now we're talking about the divine knowledge, and not only that, it enables us to be able to see the world in a different light. Because once we have accepted the fact that every man or every creature has a higher self and a lower self, we begin to see things differently. We begin to be able to look through a clear vision. It's just like when we're dealing with ourselves. We know what goes on to the left-hand side. We know what goes on to the right-hand side. I know when I'm wrong. I know when I'm right. I know when I'm doing something good, and I know when I'm taking away from that good. So that is the type of knowledge that we have begin to see beneath the surface. That is that divine light coming from Allah through our holy prophet that shows us the way, and then it comes into us. This is why in all his lessons he teaches us how to set our house in order. And our body, our soul, and our spirit is also our house. You know, we set our body in order, we set our soul in order, and we set our spirit in order. And how do we do that? By feeding it the necessary ingredients that we find in these pages. You know, and there's a whole lot more that can be said about it, but I was not planning on talking. Matter of fact, I wasn't even planning on being on here this long because of how I'm feeling. Um, but nevertheless, that was a good question, sister. I wish you would ask me something good in class or something like that. But matter of fact, we getting ready to separate. We're getting ready to separate some of this. So, you know, the classes that I'm going to teach are going to be different anyway. It ain't going to be like following up behind chapter to chapter. It'll be altogether different. So that'll be a good experiment, you know, to go into a chapter and look out some of the things that may, you know, cause one to be blind. You know, it reminds me of this parable I heard when I first came into the movement. And it talks about this brother. He moved into his town. And all of a sudden, you know, people always went knocking on his door. You know, so it was a busybody. And he thought he was the most powerful one in the village. And he was always curious why this particular person had all these friends and he just moved in the village. And so they would go to him and they went to him to seek information, you know, and stuff like that because they found out that he was a wise man. So the other person in the village who was so curious went and knocked on the door. And so he let him in. And they asked him, was he thirsty? You know, did he want something to drink? And he said, yeah, sure. And he got this bottle of water, got this glass, and he poured the water into the glass. And he ran it over. So the nosy person said, whoa, 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 wait a minute, stop. What you doing? He said, oh, this glass remind me of you, you know? And I couldn't stop pouring because that's the way you came through my door. You came through my door with a full cup of water. In order for us to talk and get an understanding on something, you got to empty your glass out. You understand that? A lot of times, man, we come into the movement thinking that we know everything. In order, see, in that particular verse where it says you got to bow yourself at the footstool, you got to admit, you know, that you don't know this. You know, we can't come in thinking that we know this. You know, it don't work like that. You know, the prophet said if he can get us to think, then we can save ourselves. So if we can learn these lessons, then we can assist him in saving us and redeeming us. But once we begin to add stuff to it and take stuff away, then it takes also away that saving power. So with that being said, Brother Chairman, I yield and I bid
It's
y'all
long.
good night. Did y'all really hear me?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
heard you. I said it's
Okay.
long. Thank you. You
You're
know,
welcome.
and I
So
appreciate you
say this
elaborating
too.
on
I
that.
like the way y'all dialogue.
Right.
Y'all doing fantastic. The other night, man, I felt so, you know, like somebody had snatched my spirit, my vibrations, everything. You know, it was just like that, you know. So anyway, I got cramps and stuff all in my body. I can't stand still. So I yield the floor back to you, your brother Chairman, and I say peace and love.
Peace and love. You know,
And
it's like,
Sheikahs, peace and love. Y'all continue on. I ain't gonna cut my phone off. Y'all continue on.
you know, it's like the deeper meaning of the insufficient knowledge. You know, it's like we have to we can gain knowledge, and that's telling us how, or telling us about something, or how something is, or the substance of something. But it's really the wisdom that teaches us what to do with what we know. It's just like this more science, just like Islamism, in the mood, in this, in what some people say more science, Temple of America, there, what is it? It's teaching us how to, as we gain the knowledge, how to use it in a proper form. You know what I mean? How we use it to validate and gain something, how we use it to process certain things and process our thinking. That's the knowledge, dealing with the insufficiency of knowledge, because we have to be able to process our thoughts in a certain manner that we come out to the right conclusion, so it's like true wisdom is humility, self-knowledge, moral discipline, compassion, the willingness to recognize our own ignorance, just as you said in so many words, brother Editor, now, you know what I mean? And this is where those 5 principles, to me, brother L. Smith Bay, falls in: love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, of how we use the knowledge that we have obtained, and not only improving ourselves, but helping others also, and building up our communities. And once we build up our communities, what is that? Building a nation within a nation. Just like a city is built with, cities are built within a state, we building a nation within a nation, a wheel within a wheel, building our communities and start doing things socially, economically, spiritually, and morally. This is what we do when we attain the knowledge and use it in its proper form. That's what this chapter is about to me. And some of the bullet points that our beloved brother Editor Nell brought up, what I mean? And especially our sister Bonds Bay, I'm gonna say it again. I gotta give you flowers. Please bring some more questions up like that, because I would like to have our class, those who come on the meetings, get more involved and, hit them with a question like that to make people put their thinking caps on and start thinking, you know what I mean? And, and get involved and get in this dialogue. And the 3 of us had this dialogue this evening, and I am on high right now. I am on high right now, I mean, this is good. This is good, and I know I'll probably be one of the first speakers to speak about this at our Friday meeting. And I'm gonna have to study it some more so I can deliberate and, pull certain verses out and speak upon it. And I hope Allah use me well in doing this, Oh, Islam. Brother Roberts Bay. Glad you could join us this evening.
Muslim.
So we was talking about.
Yeah, I worked at 10:30, 10 o'clock shift, so I'll, get a little rest before whatever. But yeah, I'm up, and Islam is Muslims. I'm here.
Islam. So what we was doing was we got the floor open. I opened up, giving my summary of the chapter and pull out certain verses. Sister Bonds Bay, she put out some questions on us, and I give her flowers for that.
She put out some questions on us. What you mean she put out some questions on us, bro? What the question was, bro?
Let me finish, brother. I'll tell you.
Islam.
She was okay. She gave a synopsis of the chapter, but then she asked the question: How do we obtain truth? You know what I mean? If Allah, if the Prophet didn't give it to us and Allah didn't give it to us, how would we have truth? Is I'm correct, Sister Bonds Bay?
Almost, yeah.
You know what I mean? So, so we elaborated on that for a minute and everything. And then we talked about the insufficiency of knowledge. What did that mean? What did that mean to you in regards to this chapter.
Okay, now just based off what you're saying, right, and dealing with our lessons, we know that truth is the one, correct? And they say that truth is Allah. You know, all is truth, and truth is Allah. And man is made after the image and the likeness of Allah. And our records let us know that how to say or it say the records say man is truth and falsehood strangely mixed. So within our being, we automatically through nature have truth within us. You know, so when it comes to truth, we don't have to reach out and search for it. It's in us. You know, but when it comes to knowledge, you know, it said, well, we gotta see that the footstool of our throne, man must humble himself once he get there. You know, when in search for knowledge. You know, but when it comes to truth, that's automatically in us. So it's not a thing that we gotta reach for. That's almost like to say where it's still that man gotta search for good. Good is in man. You know, they say the one of good is evil. Islam.
Islam. But what is the insufficiency of knowledge in this chapter?
Well, the insufficient knowledge of this chapter, and what I'm saying, I don't want to make like it's all me because our sheik elaborately explained it to us Sunday, more so the gist of the insufficiency of knowledge, whereas though knowledge in manner with the chapter of those statesmen, politicians, or rulers or those in power that had particular knowledge and control. More so, let me stop to where it's so for the overall, we let us know it's a moral and spiritual understanding of a particular knowledge, or I'll say obligation, to where as though we had the states and rules, politicians, and certain positions, you know, they have certain knowledge of things, but they don't execute in a manner of demonstrating that knowledge and transforming it to knowledge in reference to wisdom. Because man can know a lot of things. As she lets us know, the advantage lies not in the possessing of the thing, but knowing the good use of it. You know, so we have a bunch of information and knowledge, but it's about us using it. And we have certain individuals in positions, you know, for us administering justice or whatever, and doing the right thing. But instead of doing so, they choose to do otherwise, maybe for selfish gain, or more so or less to where it's their personal endeavors or however it may be, as opposed to doing that which is right. And the Sheikh had gave an example in reference to Trump, you know, our political leader, you know, but nevertheless, he have all his power, information, but yet he still do the things that is immorally correct. You know, you empowered to do certain things to raise individuals, empowered to raise nations, but instead of doing that, you choose to do otherwise. You know, so that's why I stand on that. Floor is open.
Thank you very much for your comments. So this evening, you know what I mean, I'd like to thank you all for giving y'all synopsis of the chapter and explaining it, you know, and you know, from Sister Barnes Bay to Brother Editon L to you, Brother Roberts Bay, you know, and what I would like to have the class to do, you know, whoever's hosting the meeting, if it's Brother Editon L or our Grand Sheik, or if, you know, from time to time it may be me, you know, I want us to dialogue. I want us to get into it. You know what I'm saying? I want us to really have a conversation, you know, in regard to this. This is how we learn, because how one person may explain one thing and it all may come out to be the same message. Other people may camelback off that and get a better comprehension of what these divine instructions are talking about. They make them applicable to themselves in their daily lives also, and that is the efficiency of knowledge of, as you say, not only possessing it, but in how we use it for the betterment of ourselves and for mankind, for our society, should I say, not for the misuse of power and personal gain, but for the righteous value and making good and righteous decisions. You know what I mean? Because just as I think it it's stated in, man, but I was just looking at that verse 2, where he says something about, like how Trump doing things. He talks about like he created us and he created those too, and then we going to war over something that is so stupid because somebody want to gang, have the power and authority and want to take other people's possessions, but we killing them off just like they killing us off, and it's going back and forth over nonsense, and no one has pulled a wool over their eyes and say, can we get along and try to do this? That's their resources, everybody's resource, but we try to be Mr. I'm gonna come over there and tell you what to do, and we're killing innocent bystanders, women, children, and everything that may disagree with the whole concept of what's going on, what this war is about. The same as in the Ukraine. It's just stupid, but politics is polished tricks. So we still got time. If anything, is there anything outside this chapter that anybody want to bring on the floor? They want to talk about while we have a couple minutes left? Sister Barnes Bay?
No, I'm satisfied with so far.
Sister Roberts Bay? Brother Roberts Bay. Woo! Let me correct that real quick. Brother Roberts Bay.
I mean, it's understandable. And being that you're saying reference to the chapter, and I'm thinking about and say insufficiency of knowledge. And when I'm thinking about knowledge, and when it speaks about in reference to the search for knowledge or whatever, and it said the first thing that we must do is humble ourselves. And sometimes we have a problem with being humble, even in a manner when it comes to being corrected when we're wrong, and we have issues with it, complexes, however they may call it, to where so, but that is the first step, same way the first principle we're dealing with Allah, or the first step on the 12-step ladder is obedience. But when it comes to search for knowledge, man must be able to humble himself. So even when we think we know a particular thing, and then someone come along and correct us, first thing we must do is have the ability to humble ourselves. When we have the ability to humble yourself, then you have the ability to receive and be receptive to the information that's coming in to correct the error, to move forward. And by doing that, that is a process of demonstrating wisdom. You see what I'm saying? Because wisdom is when we take that particular knowledge and apply it in the right format. So, but when we moving out on misinformation or incorrect understanding or perceptions and conceptions that's out of place, then the end result ain't gonna be right. We say our soul is reason, understanding, and willing. But in manner for all that to come about, we must be able to first humble ourselves for everything that come across when being corrected. Islam?
Islam, an act of humility. Yes, sir. Got you, my brother. My class, this been a good experience for me to conduct our Quran study class this evening. As I said, I started off a little shaky. I'm a little shaky with it myself, but I get my critique later on, and of how I did and everything, and and I like to thank all of you being on our Wednesday night Quran study class this evening. And I like the dialogue and the comment, and I love the discussion we had in dealing with our chapter, more science, and just talking and dialogue with one another. So if there's no further discussion, I'm not closing right now. I just want to talk about our announcements. Friday, we're going to be meeting at Rolling Park. I believe that Grand Temple 19 and their membership will be at the meeting, so we can discuss things dealing with our convention and maybe some other brief topics at that particular time. We are working on the agenda for our conference, and we already set the dates. We just got to, fine tune some things in regards to that. One of the things that I was noticing, Al Grand Sheik gave the 2026 revised version of our policies, and I would like for each of us to take it upon ourselves to really read and study that. He breaks down certain things in our policies and regarding duties and responsibilities of certain stations and official positions within our divine and national movement. And it's like the previous book, but it's more additional information in there, and it's some different emblems that are not being used no more, has discontinued, and new emblems were created, and meanings for that design and what they stand for. Even dealing with our medallions and charms, like in the 2025 version, he talks about our medallions, for sheiks and sheikesses. But then in this one, he talks about both in this particular policy book that we have. He talks about, it explains about our, what are requirements to be to go and to be accepted within the ADAPT chamber, what are requirements to be recognized and to come in to be a sheik or sheikesses and an ordained minister. The process you have to go through in regards to that. I think it's very important that we all read and study that, the information, because Al Grand Sheik takes a lot of time to put that information together so we can be an effective movement, a nucleus within the Moorish National Divine Movement. He gives us information, not to just collect it and just sit around. He gives the information that we can use it, and we can start establishing ourselves within our local temple, within our National Divine Movement. And we know certain things, so no one can pull wool over your eyes, in or outside the Moorish, paragon. And there's certain things we need to know, and we should continue to study and review, so we will be, we could put things in their right perspective, and just as Brother Robert Spade said, somebody may say something wrong, and we got to know our laws and policies and to see the people adhere to them, not just ourselves, but we make sure that everyone's adhering to them, so we all are going on the same direction, same aim of building our temples and our communities up and doing what we need to do to uplift not ourselves, but also to help out fallen humanity, within our communities. So I suggest that we read and review that. And the other thing is, and also when he puts out study guides, just go over the footnotes, dig into your chapter. Ideas come to you, in regards to the chapter. He didn't say in the chapter, he didn't say in the study notes that, oh, the five divine principles was in this chapter. That's how I perceived it, in regards to that when I looked into it, but it takes time for somebody that's dedicated to sit at the computer and type up footnotes for us as a guide for us. You know what I mean? And this is how you bring yourself out and you grow, This is a school of thought. This is a school of thought. And thought must be exercised by our strengths, developed by exercise of strength. And we need to develop ourselves so we can be strong leaders, adepts, sheiks and seekresses, ordained members, or even, most importantly, faithful members, standing erect, being faithful, knowing what we know. You know what I mean? And not just knowing what we know to know it, but people can see it within us, see it in our character and how we behave and act within the communities. And that's something that we all need to think about each and every day. Especially me. I need to think about it all the time. I need to work on me some more. But yes, and we need to have conversations like this in our meeting. And if I gotta call somebody, maybe not tonight, but I gotta call somebody, and talk to them, see what's going on, talk to certain individuals, and find out their take, because we gotta get to know one another, find out their take, I know you understand this information. Come on now, sister or brother, what's going on? Why are you not saying too much at the meetings? You know what I mean? And that's what meetings are for, not just to come and listen, but, to listen, ask questions, so you get a better understanding. You can ask questions, and a lot of us don't want to ask questions, and we should. And Sister Barnes, she has a nice, good question. I like that too. So with that, does anybody have any comments before we proceed to close? Well, I take that out. I'm gonna ask our Grand Sheik, do you have anything he'd like to add to our meeting this evening before we proceed to close? Brother RLL, you have anything you want to add to our meeting before we proceed to close, sir?
Islam, sir. I said I wasn't a part of your class, just monitoring.
Islam, just out of respect, sir. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Praise the Lord. Thank you for that, though. From what I'm listening, I mean, you got an excellent class going on.
There you get me. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Praise be to Allah. I got my score paper.
Brother, added to that, do you have anything you want to add before we proceed to go into our closing?
No, sir.
Okay. Who is L? Hello? Islam.
Me?
You went from Sister Barnes made to L?
No.
Excuse me for saying who is L. I should say Islam. Can you introduce yourself, sister or brother L?
No, my phone cut off. So when it cut off, I came back on and I just put the L up there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, Sister Barnes, you have anything you like to say before we proceed to close?
No, I enjoyed the meeting and you did well. Congratulations.
Thank you. Now you are making me get butterflies again. Well, Robert, do you have anything you need to add before we proceed to close?
No, Muslim. I don't. I mean, only thing I added was to apologize for my tardiness for getting on so late. But as explained to the sheik, yeah, man, I'm due to be at work at 10 o'clock. So I'll be trying to crash out and wake up, and I overslept normally than usual. So it was this phone call that awakened me to wait, get on the meeting. So I apologize to the Muslims for my tardiness.
Brother Editonel, you have anything?
Didn't you just ask me that, Mo?
I'm making sure, brother. I'm making sure. Well, this time,
Good class, Mo. No, I don't have anything, brother. Very good class. I enjoyed it.
thank you. We're gonna proceed to close. Friday, remember we're gonna be meeting at Roland Park. For those who's here in the city. And let's uplift our meeting and have a good Friday holiday service before we go into some other discussions that's going to be there this Friday. So we probably more than likely meeting be open up, and we probably will lower the meeting, or to do the business part of it about 8:30. So we have a good hour to talk about what we need to talk about in business. But I will speak that over with my Grand Sheik and my assistant Grand Sheik of how we want to go about that. To have an hour session for our holy day services and speak about the chapter, and then an hour. I'm suggesting an hour that we will go into the meeting about gender and everything for our convention in October. At this time, the divine proclamation will be stated by me, and as usual, Brother Editonel, you can do the prophet's closing prayer for me, sir. For us, sir. Salvation, Allah, unity. The Moorish Science Temple of America, Prophet Noble Drew Ali, founder. Divine proclamation, January 1929. The prophet warned all Muslims governors ordered to read proclamation at each meeting. I hereby inform all members they must end all radical, agitating speeches while at work, in their homes, or on the street. We are for peace, not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at your opinion that causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be of severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, and freedom. And when these principles are violated, justice then must take its course. Any member or any group of members who hold malicious feelings towards the temple or the prophet, or who violates the divine covenant of the Moorish movement, will receive the reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the law laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn in their cotton button, cease wearing their turban or fez, and return to the state where I, the prophet, found you. This is a holy and divine movement founded by the prophet, Noble Drew Ali. And if the prophet's not right, the temple's not right. The prophet, therefore, is sending a divine plea to all Moorish Americans that they do their part in protecting their prophet and the temple. This is the everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sins by order of Prophet Noble Drew Ali.
This is my prophet closing prayer. Allah bind our hearts and minds back to our ancient forefathers' divine creed and principles. This we ask in their holy name in the 70 days. Amen.
Amen.
Peace and
Islam,
love.
Moors. Peace and love.
Peace and love.
Peace and love, Moors.
Peace and love.